What's up YouTube? This is Kyle with Carve Creative, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do a GT tire swap. So we were lucky enough to get a Enduro tire from Jeff at the Float Life, and we're very thankful for that. So I'm going to show you step by step how to put this thing on. I know I don't have stock rails. These are the Lightning rails, but the step by step will be the exact same. Let's get to it. So for my tools, the first thing I'm going to show you here is my gyroscopic screwdriver from DeWalt. I love this thing. And for the bit, this is a 25 Torx Plus bit. First thing we're going to take off is our fender delete. Mine is in two pieces because I had to cut it to fit my Lightning rails, but it's going to be the same exact thing. We're going to take off these 4 screws. And we're going to remove the fender delete. And if it's in one piece, I know it's a little bit tricky to get it off. Sometimes I find if you grab it right from the middle and pull upward, you'll have an easier time taking off your fender delete. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove these 4 screws up top. These are all the same size screws, so I'm going to remove these 4, get rid of my foot pad top screws. So now I'm going to flip the board over, and same thing, I'm going to remove all of the screws that I can get to from the underside here on my bumpers. And these screws for me are longer because I have the flare foot pad on there from Craft and Ride, which I have been enjoying that foot pad. Some are more full of dirt than others. Now I'm going to go into the front bumper. So now I'm just going to pull my bumpers off. The front one slides forward, and the back one, you just lift it right up. I'm going to remove these 2 foot pad underside screws, and once you do that, the foot pad should fall off. Now I'm just going to flip this thing back around again. So for this next part, when I do a tire change, I take off one rail. This is a method that I was taught by John Stock from the Mob Shop. You can do this on the Pint or on the GT, and it's very easy. So first things first, I'm going to slide this foot pad over so I can access these 4 rail screws. And after that, I just need to remove my 2 axle bolts. If you have stock, it's going to be a Ribe M8 bit. And now our rail comes right off. One really nice benefit of taking the rail off like that is it's a lot easier to access this motor plug now. You still have the rail on there, it's harder to get your fingers and turn everything. Now I can just get to everything very easily, unplug this. So the last thing I'm going to do before I get this tire off the board is remove the axle bolts that are on the opposite side. Once I do that, the wheel will be free from the rails. So same thing, I'm just going to loosen it by hand. So anytime I put the hub with the cable side down, I want to use these wood blocks. Put 2 blocks on there so that the wire is protected. This tool is a valve core removal tool. Spin until I remove my valve core. So I'm going to be using my press to break the bead. There's other options out there. You can use a Bead Breaker, which is, I believe it's like a $70 tool that you can buy. You can also, using these blocks, set your tire like this and put a 2x4 right up to the edge of where the tire meets your hub, and you just stomp on it. We have another video from our Pint X tire change. I showed how to do it in that one, so you can check it out there. So I'm just gonna bring the tire over to the bearing press, make sure that I don't have my motor cable pinched anywhere. I'm gonna put it in the void there of my bearing press, and I'm just gonna slowly bring this down. And I have rim savers on here, so it might be a little bit harder, but it doesn't seem like it. Looks like it's coming right off. So I broke that side free. Now I'm gonna flip it and do the same to the other side. And we are good to go. The next thing I need to do is remove my rim saver, but I don't need to remove both of them. I just need to remove them on one side. So this is the side that I'm gonna use to get the tire off of here. So I'm gonna remove the rim saver from this side. Just kind of peels right off of there. So now it's time to get the tire off of here. This is the part that people struggle with the most when they're doing a tire change. My first time, it took me close to an hour to get the tire off of the hub, but I'm gonna show you how to do it the easiest way possible that I've found over the last few years. So first of all, on your hub, you have this groove right here. You are gonna use it to your advantage to get this tire off. The first thing I'm gonna do is make sure I got the bead broken and off here. And I'm gonna rest that inside of the groove. This is such a stiff tire that it's harder to do it than most XR tires, but it's definitely doable. So now I've got that resting in the groove on the bottom there. So I'm gonna use my pry tool to bring this tire up over the hub. It's so crazy how stiff this tire is. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now you can see that I have it up over the hub. My thumbs are gonna go upward, and then my fingers are gonna try to peel the tire off. Okay, so this tire has a direction arrow, so make sure that you are going the right direction. I have my motor cable this way, so I'm gonna make sure that the arrow is going the same direction as my motor cable. That makes it easy for me. And as you can see, it just pries right on there. When I do this one here, I'm gonna put weight with my thumb right here and kind of get it up in that groove. And then I'm gonna use my other hand to just like slowly peel this thing around the hub. So if you don't have rim savers, don't worry about this part, but if you do, I'm just gonna throw my rim saver back on before I set my bead. Come on, there we go. Next, I'm gonna use my valve tool here and throw my valve core back in so I can fill this bad boy up with air. Next, I'm gonna use a tire strap. Not everybody does this, but I do it because I've had a couple tires that have warped on me from too high of a PSI setting the bead. And this tire strap is from Onewheel parts. So now I'm just gonna fill it up until I set both beads. It shouldn't have popped yet, but there's the first one at 15. And the second one at 25. This thing is a little different than the XR Enduro profile, which to me is a good thing. I'm really excited for that. Now I'm gonna put my thread locker on. I have the Vibrotite. It's what I like to use, and I'm just gonna put a small drop on there, and then I'll just kind of use my finger to work it around the threads. I'm gonna do that to all 4 of them so that they're ready to go, and I don't have to awkwardly do it with one hand when I'm trying to put the board together, which I've done many times. So now I'm gonna grab the frame of the board here again. Here I'm gonna be mindful of the notch on my axle and my axle block here, because that is what I need to be lined up nicely in order for this to go smoothly. So you'll kind of feel it go into place. So I'm just trying to get these started by hand. Okay, so those aren't over tightened right now. I just have them started with the drill. I'm gonna come back on this side, and it's time to plug this back in. When you do this, make sure that everything is lined up correctly. You should have no resistance when plugging it in. Once it's fully plugged in, you're gonna take this sleeve until you feel a click, and then you know that it's fully secured there. Now we're gonna put the other rail back on, which is pretty easy. The main thing that you wanna make sure is that all your holes are lined up here. So I'm just gonna get these started by hand once again, and then I'll come back and very lightly tighten these in. I just want everything in place right now. I'm not trying to over torque anything. So this is one of the most important parts, because with a GT, it's really easy to forget this step. Make sure that you put these 4 rail screws in, because for some reason, it's very easy to forget these screws. I've taken my board apart probably 30 times and other people's boards, and I've probably forgotten these screws at least 5 times. So don't do what I did, put them in. I like to do one on this side, and I'm gonna come over here and do the other on this side. Now I'm gonna come back up here and do the last front screw. All right, so we got this thing apart, we replaced the tire, put our rails back together, we got the main core of the board together. Now we're basically gonna be putting back all the things that we've all taken off, which is our foot pads and our bumpers, but we still wanna make sure we do it right. So to start with, I'm gonna grab both my foot pads, set them in place, and I'm gonna do the 4 top foot pad screws. Then I'm gonna throw on my fender deletes, which for you, it'll be one of these, unless you have the flight fender, which is also split into 2 pieces. flip it over to the bottom. Now I'm gonna put my foot pad bottom screws in. There's gonna be 2 in the back and also 2 up front. And all of these screws, I'm not tightening them a lot. The only screws or bolts on a Onewheel that I'm gonna be really torquing down are always gonna be 4 screws here. Those bolts need to be torqued down with power. Everything else can be pretty much hand tight. You do not wanna over torque. You can pull inserts out and have a big mess that you don't wanna have. With the bumpers, there are 6 short screws. Those are the only screws on the whole board that are gonna be different. So make sure that those are always gonna be these top surface of the bumper is where those are gonna go. Everything else on this board is the exact same. So the last 4 screws are gonna be the screws on the end. And I have the aftermarket one, so I have longer screws from my flare. Just tighten these down. So the last step is tightening down my axle bolts. And these, like I said, I want them to be good and tight. So first I'm gonna just get it hand tight. Now I'm gonna come back and really put power into it. Whenever you need more leverage, always change your angle. There's sometimes where you're sitting there trying to overpower something and you don't have your hand in the right spot. Adjust yourself so you can get the most leverage possible. And we are done. So that was the tire change. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching. We are gonna be reviewing this tire in the next week, so please keep an eye out on our channel. If you enjoyed the video, please take the time to like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.